Hey everybody, my name's Christian and this is my channel Treasure Town, and today we're going to be talking about $10 bills. Now most of the time, I have 10 of them in my hand. That's $100 and that's all they're going to be worth. But sometimes they look more like this. Now, I'm not sure how the edit is going to end up looking, but the point is, often the $10 bills that you're using could have some features on them that make collectors pay way more than them. So whether you've just got a stack of regular 10s and it's going to be worth $100, well, it's not going to hurt you to check to make sure that they're not the ones worth thousands or hundreds of dollars or whatever it ends up being. But I prepared a bunch in a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to head over there and just get started with this one, which is a misalignment error. You can see the treasury seal is well off, and the really cool thing is that the treasury seal is so far off in terms of its misalignment that a second one is going to appear below it. So this one sold for $1,440, and this was just picked out of a bank strap that would have been new from the bank, and it was probably pretty apparent, and here you go, 144 times the investment. The next one is a also relatively recent 1999 note, and this one also has to do with the third printing or the overprint. They do the serial number along with the Treasury and Federal Reserve seals after the face and the back are printed, and somehow the notes got flipped around. And presumably a fair amount of these would have been created. Maybe not, most of them didn't escape or something like that, but this one did and sold for $1,175. The next one to review is an extremely expensive one. Normally I wouldn't have something that's so old, but the design does look pretty similar and is just so significant. It's $43,125. It hadn't been graded, but the sheets and must have gotten mixed up somehow. The $10 on the front of the coin with Hamilton, the $5 should have had Lincoln at that time on the front, but wasn't really caught because it's easy if you're just looking always at one side of the notes for something to get out of the way, though this is the toughest error to find ever. So there's probably almost all the ones that are known are selling for well into the five figures. The insufficient inking error, this is a really interesting pattern. It doesn't seem like something that would normally occur. It may have been sort of like a test run, but it either way has significantly less ink than it should have had. The other interesting thing to note, if you look closely, you can see that some ink is still there, like a tiny bit's left over, but it's super muted, and this one sold for $1,920, and there's some different denominations with similar errors. The next one is what's called a wet ink transfer. This can happen on all sorts of different denominations. I was looking online, and somebody in a coin forum said that they had found like 500 in a row that had wet ink transfer, and so it really depends. If you have like a obverse here that's clearly really melded in with a reverse fully, those can be expensive, but sometimes it's just a little bit and it's not. In this case, having the serial number be so out of place, and it's not like it's not perpendicular to the serial number, and really just shouldn't happen. So somebody spent $260 to acquire this. It had circulated a fair amount. You can see some just general use had been folded multiple times, but still commanded 26 times its face value. This one, pretty clear why it sold for $2,530 during the printing process. About half of the note just ripped off, the sheet fully ripped, but was still printed over. So you see the serial number. If you put this tear back and make it look like there was nothing there, obviously the seal, the Federal Reserve, and the Treasury seal would not be there. So that one people spent a fair amount of money on. Our next error is going to be this inverted offset from the front to the back, and the inked printing plate comes into contact with the impressing cylinder or the impression cylinder, and that means instead of having being impressed onto a sheet that is on the impressing cylinder, then when the impressing cylinder presses the sheet for the reverse printing, it will have some residual ink from the front. Now, it's really interesting how it's totally at an angle. It's not like just a mirror image. So being at an angle, I'm a little less sure as how that comes into effect, but it's similar to a wet ink transfer, a little bit different, but a little bit more rare, especially with having the full offset with so many notes present. Somebody really paid up for it to the tune of $1,150. After that, we've got a double denomination, this time a $10 bill with a $1 bill from a different year. There's a very limited number of these known, but this sold for $57,500. So again, huge numbers, and it's why I always flip over any currency that I receive back in change. And then we have this other inverted overprint, and I think that this is always a really nice error note, because the overprint, the sheets were probably fed upside down into the overprint. And as a result, you have, what would have been right side up, but if the note is upside down when it's entered, then when you then look at it, it will appear as though the overprint is the one that's inverted. This sold for $2,185. Here is another pretty significant error, and it's a retained obstruction. So I may show later on an obstruction error. If the obstructing thing falls off, it's a lot less valuable than if you have in this case, looks like a piece of tape with some cardboard that gets impressed with the Chicago, Illinois Federal Reserve Bank seal, as well as most of the serial number here. And then that tape also continues over to the back, hung on all the way through, and gets plucked out. Later on, sells for $6,900, so really nice, again, figure for whoever the finder was. Then we've got a treasury seal over inking, basically 3 consecutive notes that all had this dramatic over inking error. Somebody paid $1,200 or $400 each, but these errors are nothing to mess around with. Here looked like even some dots of the ink had spilled over and continued to be impressed on each of these notes, but a great find for this person. And again, this is really the $10 bill, the type that we're transacting with today. So when you see these notes, it's not like it needs to be these really old ones, maybe for the double denomination, but there's a lot of things that are worth significantly over the face value. Now, if you just draw on the ink, that would be pretty apparent if you had done that. So it's not going to, these are very challenging to fake, especially getting them past grading. And here is an obstructed printing error. You can see that because there's no overprint on this side, nor is there going to be any first part of the serial number. This only sold for $280. So compare that with something like this, sells for $6,900. Huge difference. But still, $280 if you get a 10 back and change, that'd make my day. So that's what we've got today. Bunch of different notes. And I think another lesson is that I need to go figure out a little bit more about the Magna Quad press, but great to talk through all of this with you today. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated. I've also got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so you can follow me there. TreasuretownYT.com is the main channel website. Definitely give that a visit. I've got a lot of information about me up there and the channel. CoinGrabBag.com as well currently redirects there, but it's some good opportunities for very fair grab bags, both made by me and other sellers. A lot of different options, so that's a good way to support. There's also TreasuretownCoins.com. In the future, my coin dealing operation will be done out of that website. CoinMeltPrice.com for updates on the melt prices of your coins, both US and world. A lot of resources in that website. And then CoinsMetalsCards.com being developed right now as a marketplace and news source for coins, metals, cards, and collectibles in general. So I'll see you on my future videos. Looking forward to seeing you there, and hope you have a good day.